Hey guys! So it is currently midnight, day one of Smut-a-thon, and I am going to start with From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. This is the longest book on my TBR, and I feel like if I don't start with it, I won't read it this week at all because it is 500 pages. This book, I think I'm reading it for enemies to lovers. It's about pairs, figure skaters, and this girl who has been doing pair skating for a couple years, her partner left her basically, and she hasn't had a partner. People are kind of pressuring her to retire, and then she gets an offer from her best friend's brother, who is like the champion pair skater. He's won a couple gold medals, and he's just like really good. She gets an offer from him to become his partner. The problem though is that they hate each other so much. I'm excited for the hate to love vibes. I'm also excited about the pairs skating, and I've heard a lot of really great things about this book. Like, it's always being recommended to me, so hopefully I like it. Okay, so good morning, or I guess afternoon. It's noon. Although I know it looks dark in my room, it's very deceiving, but it is noon. And I just finished my first book. I finished reading From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. I'm shocked that I finished this so quickly because this book is 500 pages. Why? That's my first question upon finishing it, is why was it 500 pages? I ended up giving it 4 stars, but I did have some issues. One being it was too fucking long. It did not need to be 500 pages. And I started reading the ebook, and I had to switch to the audiobook because as I was reading it, like, the editing part of my brain just kept wanting to cut things. Like, there were so many times when I was like reading it and I was just thinking, okay, this paragraph can go, and this paragraph can go, and this can go. So I had to switch to the audiobook, so I just wouldn't do that anymore and I could actually enjoy the story. So yeah, it was way too long. And the thing that I guess frustrated me about it being 500 pages is that I don't think it properly utilized the pages. There were so many side characters, but we barely got to see any of them. The whole reason that God, what were their names? Ivan and Juliet? Was her name Juliet? Oh my god, I'm already forgetting the names. Anyways, the only reason that they even knew each other was because his sister is her best friend. So you'd think that, like, okay, she's gonna be an important character because she's the connecting link between both of these characters. No. She was literally in one scene, and it was a phone call. Like, they just talked to her on the phone once. And that was it. And there was a lot of other side characters that we just like didn't, like, she had a million brothers and sisters that we like barely got to know. Also, something that annoyed me was in the last like 30 pages, there was just a throwaway line that she's Filipino. Where did that come from? And it was in reference to like someone bullying her because she's Filipino. And it just felt like I was literally so taken aback by it because, like I said, literally it was in the last 30 pages of this book, and it just felt so, like, I don't know, it felt very much like I'm just gonna throw a little bit of diversity at you and call it a day. So that did bother me, but the tension and the chemistry between these two characters was so mind-blowingly good that all the other issues I had didn't really bother me. I mean, this is a 500-page book and I read it this morning. It's very clear that Mariana Zapata is good at writing slow burn romance. I think that's kind of her thing. I will say this wasn't exactly a smutty book because there's only one sex scene and it's at the very end. Like, this book makes you wait for it so much. So like, if you're going into it hoping for more smut, I would say don't get your hopes up. But if you're looking for like a slow burn romance that is so agonizingly slow it will make your stomach hurt, that's what this is. Literally, I got a stomach ache. This book gave me a stomach ache because I just wanted them to admit that they liked each other and they wouldn't. So yeah, I originally had this as my enemies to lovers book, which it is, but I think I'm gonna move it and count it for my slow burn because this was definitely the epitome of a slow burn romance. So now, I don't know what I'm gonna read next. I think I wanna read something quick because that book was really long. I might actually read Sunstone, which is a graphic novel. It's about a female-female relationship where they're exploring like a sub-dom type of situation. And I've heard good things about it, and I checked out the first 2 volumes from my library, so I think I might read those right now. And I don't know what trope they would count for. I don't really know if they would count for a trope. I'm gonna have to see after I read it, but I'm excited. I hope they're good. So I just finished volumes 1 and 2 of Sunstone, and I really liked them. I'm folding laundry also right now, so if you're wondering why I'm sitting on the floor and what I'm doing, that's what I'm doing. But basically, yeah, like I said, it's about 2 women who enter into a BDSM sub-dom relationship. The graphic novel is graphic. Like, if you are underage, I would not recommend reading it. It's super graphic. But it more explored the dynamics of the sub-dom relationship rather than like the sexual relationship, which I actually kind of liked, because going into it I was worried it was just gonna be like porn, basically. And it was so much more than that, and I really liked it. I think it was definitely like one of the more healthy portrayals of a BDSM relationship I've ever seen, which was really nice. So yeah, I read the first 2 volumes of that. And then I also read Survival of the Richest by Skye Warren. I read this for the Forbidden Challenge because basically it's about this girl and her relationship with her stepbrother. And basically her father was married to his mother for like a year. So they were only step siblings for a year. The book starts out like right when they first meet, when they're teenagers and their parents just got married. And they just have like an immediate connection with each other. And then even after their parents get divorced, they kind of keep in contact and they write each other letters and they stay in touch with each other. And then the main character's father dies, and he put the stepbrother in charge of her trust fund. So that kind of becomes a point of contention between the 2 of them, because her mother has cancer and there's like a medical research treatment, an experimental treatment that she wants her mother to do, but he won't grant her the funds to do that because of some, I don't even know what the reason was. It was a stupid reason. So they basically kind of become like enemies. And then one day she ends up meeting her stepbrother's business partner, and they're very attracted to each other, and they start up like a relationship, and that makes the stepbrother really jealous, and she ends up having like a relationship with both of them. I really liked this, but I do think it could have been better. There were some things that I was like, oh, that's really what we're doing. I do want to read the sequel because this one did end on a cliffhanger. But yeah, it was good. I think I am ending up giving it 3.5 stars. This, I will say though, that this is like one of the few books I've read where I genuinely like both guys almost equally. There's one that I do think she has a better connection with and I would like her to choose, but I like both of them, so I really don't care who she picks. So it is now day 2 of Smut-a-thon, and I just finished a book that was everything I have ever wanted. It was called Born Darkly by Trisha Wolfe. Basically, this book was like a combination of so many different like horror thriller movies that I love. It follows this woman who is like a criminal psychologist, and she gets this one new client who was a serial killer, and he was basically like Jigsaw from the Saw franchise, where he would target other criminals and like people who had done bad things and set up traps for them and put them in the trap and basically give them like the choice to live or die. The book is like all their therapy sessions together, and they have a connection. There's something about him that really intrigues her, and she has a lot of secrets and there's a lot of stuff in her past, and they definitely had like a very Joker, Harley Quinn type of dynamic, which I really liked. Like I said, it reminded me a lot of like horror and thriller movies that I love, and it was so good. Like the tension, oh my god. It ended on kind of like not a cliffhanger, but There is a second book that I do want to read soon. I was going to like read it immediately after I finished, but I wanted to like move on to something else. So I'm definitely going to read the second book soon. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It was really good. So now I don't know what I'm going to read. I did make the mistake of... So Lainey, who co-hosts this readathon with me, she has been talking nonstop about the show The Borgias, and it's a show that I've always really wanted to watch. I really like historical shows like this, and it's on Netflix, and I made the mistake of starting it earlier today, and I'm already on like episode 3, and it definitely was a mistake to start it this week because all I want to do now is watch this show, but I have to read. So I think what I'll read next is going to be something like really short and quick. I do have a couple novellas that I can read. Will this stay here? I'm like very carefully balancing my phone on my laptop with my pop socket, and it appears to be working. Oh my god, this means I can hands-free vlog in bed without setting up my tripod. What an innovator I am. Okay, so I just finished a novella. It's called My Lady's Lover by Nicola Davidson, and it's a historical romance, and it's about a maid who has a crush on the woman that she's in employment for. So it's a female-female romance. And the maid is also part of this sexual freedom society, which is basically just like a club, like a sex club type of thing. The countess that she's in employment for, her husband is like horrible and abusive, and she really, like, the woman really does not like him. And he goes away for like the weekend and they have some fun. And it was really, really good. I think one of the reasons why I liked this so much, and this is actually a topic that I do want to talk about, because I think it's really hard to find queer smut that's not fetishy, which is like my main problem with it that I found in the past, and why I tend to be pretty cautious when reading it. Like, let's be honest, when you're looking at queer smut, the vast majority of it is male, and then within that, most of it is going to be written by straight women. I've read some really bad ones, and I feel like it's really hard to find good queer smut, and not only good queer smut, but good female-female smut. I feel like a lot of times, like, the female-female romances that I've come across are very, like, light and fluffy, and that's nice. But, like, sometimes I just want a really sexy, steamy, female-female romance, and those are harder to find. They exist. They're just hard to find. So this is one that I thought was really good. It was really hot, sexy, and fun, and I really loved both the characters. It's really short too. It's like 50 pages, but it was good and I liked it. And I think I would put this for the challenge of probably different worlds, I guess, because one of them is a countess and the other one's a maid. It could also be forbidden for many reasons. One, it's an employer-employee thing. 2, she's married. I don't think I'm going to read any more today because I just want to watch more of the Borgias, and I don't know what to read after that. I've read a lot of kind of angsty stuff because Born Darkly was super, like, dark and angsty. Survival of the Richest was really angsty. So I feel like I want to read something that's more light and fun. So I might read The Deal because I feel like that is like, it's like a hockey romance, although I don't know if the series is actually about hockey. I just know that they're about hockey players. I hope it's not super focused on the hockey because I don't like sports. Oh, my eyes are so puffy. This is what happens when you don't sleep. So, hey guys, it's day 3 of Smut-a-thon and it's like really early. I made a really dumb decision last night and I didn't sleep. I stayed up all night watching The Borgias. I'm really tired, but I know if I go to sleep, I'm just gonna sleep all day. So I figure I'm just gonna power through it. So I'm gonna start The Deal. I decided that's what I'm gonna read. This is by Elle Kennedy, and all I know about it is that it's about a girl who likes this football player guy, but he like pays no attention to her, and she's in this class and she's like getting an A in the class, and then there's this hockey player who is like the most popular guy in school, and he's failing the class, and he sees that she is getting an A, so he's like, can you tutor me? And she doesn't want to do it, And then eventually they strike up this deal where he will pretend to date her so that she gets more popularity, and the other guy who she does like will be jealous and more interested in her. So it's, you know, that story. It's basically like every teen movie I've ever seen wrapped up into one, and I'm really excited. So I just finished The Deal by Al Kennedy, and it was really good. I liked it. I think I'm ending up giving it like 3.5 stars. It's more closer to 4 stars than 3.5, but let's just go with 3.5. I did really like it. It was fun and super tropey, and like I said when I was explaining it, like, it just combined so many different like teen movie tropes that I love. And I did really like the romance between the two main characters. And actually, when I put this on my TBR, I put it for the trope of fake dating, but they only fake dated for like one scene. I think a more accurate trope for this book was friends with benefits, because while she is tutoring this guy, they do become really good friends. Like, they become best friends, and then they decide to start having sex because, well, trigger warning, she was raped in the past, and since then she hasn't been able to have an orgasm with another person, so they decide to start having sex to make that happen. So really the fake dating wasn't like a big element in it, which I was a little bit disappointed by just because I love that trope so much, but the friends with benefits part was so good. So yeah, I liked it, and I'm excited to read the rest of the series because I did like the side characters who are probably gonna have their own books, but I think that's all I'm gonna read today because, like I said already, I want to watch more of the Borgias. This is just gonna be my Borgia watching vlog. But I'm loving it so much. It's been a really long time since I've watched like a historical drama show, and I live for them. Like, they're so good. And Cesare, oh my god, I love him so much. So it is day 4 of Smut-a-thon, and I read 2 books today already. So I'm doing really good. The first one I read was Luffs by Shay Savage, and this is a companion to Transcendence, which is one of my favorite romance books ever. And it's basically, if you don't know, it's a caveman romance about this girl who somehow travels back into time, and she is stuck in the past and comes across this caveman, and he's the only one there, and they fall in love, and it's awesome. But they can't communicate because he doesn't have any form of communication. He doesn't speak a language, he doesn't write, he doesn't understand anything. And that book is told from his point of view. So we're in his head the whole time, and since he can't understand language, we don't know what the girl is saying because he doesn't know what she's saying. And this book is that book, but from the girl's point of view. And it was really, really good. Like, I normally am not a fan of this type of thing where like you get the same book but from another character's point of view. I don't like that a lot because oftentimes it's just unnecessary, but this is the one case where I think it is super necessary. There are a lot of different things that happened that were kind of question marks when you read the first book, and once you read it from her point of view, you understand what was happening. I did cry a little bit, not gonna lie, just because the way that it ends is just really emotional. I cried at the ending of the first book, and I cried at the ending of this one as well. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was really, really good. And then after that, I read Seven of Swords by J.J. Knight. And this book had a really interesting premise. The plot of this book is that basically this guy who is a thief runs a heist where he ends up stealing the swords of King Arthur's Round Table. And they're worth like $140 million. It's like the biggest heist he's ever run. And so afterwards he wants to celebrate. So he calls an escort service that he uses a lot, and he gets a girl, and she comes over to his place and they have sex, and it's a one-night stand. And he wakes up the next morning and the girl is gone, and so are the swords. So that premise sounded so good, but this book was was so bad. I was texting my friends pretty much like updates every single page of why it sucked. First of all, the very first sex scene, which is in like chapter 2, was just so bad. Okay, I was about to start talking about foreplay and my parents called me, so where were we? Right, the sex scenes were so bad, specifically the first one. Foreplay? What's that? 2 seconds after meeting each other, he had her panties off and was slamming into her, and I was like, whoa dude, you need to take a second and like make sure everything is ready and good, because that's too quick. And like, I'm not sure, I don't know who the author of this book is. I've never heard of JJ, what was the name? JJ Knight. I've never heard of JJ Knight. I'm not sure who they are, but this honestly felt like it was written by someone who heard about the general concept of a woman, but has never actually met one. Granted, this author could be a woman, I don't know. But there was like so many just like, okay, for example, the girl, she dyed her hair, so she was blonde and she dyed her hair brown when she went to meet the guy so that he wouldn't know who she was. And so afterwards, she needs to dye her hair back to blonde. The book makes it sound like it's a very quick process, like she went into the bathroom and like dyed her hair back to blonde. When literally anyone who has ever dyed their hair knows you can't go from brunette to blonde that fast. It's a long process. So just like weird things like that. There was like a whole nother conversation with the female character and her best friend, and they spent like 9 pages talking about how good these guys are at sex. And I was just like, like why? Why? And then there was like another conversation that was all about pumpkin spice. And the main character was like, oh, like pumpkin spice is disgusting. I'm not like a basic girl. I don't like pumpkin spice. Give me a break. The male character was just so annoying and sexist. He wasn't mad that someone got the jump on him and stole his $140 million swords out from under him. He was mad it was a woman. That was his biggest problem, was that a woman did this. Gave it 1 star. I definitely will not read anything else by this author, whoever they are. But yeah, tonight we had the Smut-a-thon chat, where if you're not on Twitter, then sorry, you missed it. But on Twitter, we just asked some questions and had like a fun chat. And I was really nervous that like nobody would participate in it, but a lot of people were doing it and it was a lot of fun. So I kind of just wanted to go over what the questions were and what my answers were, just in case you aren't on Twitter or you missed it. So the first question was, what's been your favorite read so far? And I said that if you want to die slowly from waiting for 2 characters to kiss, I recommend From Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata. I do really like that book, and so far it has been my favorite thing that I've read. The second question was, how do you find new romance books to read? And for me, I mostly find them through Goodreads lists. There's pretty much like a list for everything on Goodreads, and you can get very specific. What trope you want, what kink you want, what type of characters you want. Like, there's a list for everything, and that's how I find most of them. Also, another thing that I do is I find like actual Goodreads users that read romance books that I like, and I will go through their bookshelves. Romance readers are kind of known, at least to me on Goodreads, for doing the most when it comes to their Goodreads shelves, and they will have like shelves for everything, and it's like so detailed, and yeah, it's great. So that's pretty much how I find romance books. Question 3 was, what are your go-to romance subgenres? And for me, my go-to is always paranormal. I love romance books that have vampires and shifters and witches and fae. I've also really been getting into historical romance lately, but I feel like I was kind of spoiled from it because the first historical romance author I read from is Tessa Dare, and in my opinion, she's the best. Pretty much anyone I've read after her, I'm comparing to her, and like, I've read Sarah McLean and I really like her, but other than them two, I'm kind of having trouble finding people that I like. Question 4 is, what is some smut that gets an automatic hard pass from you? When it comes to smut, there aren't a lot of things I won't read as long as the smut is good. But there's one thing in particular that anytime I see it, I immediately want to 1-star the book, no matter how good it was, and that is accidental pregnancy. I hate it so much. It's not my thing. I don't like it. It makes me super uncomfortable, and it happens a lot in romance, and it's super annoying because I don't like it. And then the last question was, what is a book left in your TBR that you're most looking forward to? And I said Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. I've been saving it because I feel like I'm gonna love it, but honestly, watch me not even read it for Smut-a-thon. I feel like that's gonna happen because if you have been around my channel for a long time, you will know that I put off things that I think I'm really gonna like. So honestly, if I end up not reading it for Smut-a-thon, I would not be surprised, but I hope I do. So yeah, thanks to anyone who participated in the chat. It was a lot of fun. I think it's definitely something we're gonna continue next round. We might change it a little bit, but it was a lot of fun and I'm glad we did it. So it is Smut-a-thon day 5 and I read a book this morning. It was called, crap, what was it called? Big Rock? I think that's what it was called, by Lauren Blakely, I'm pretty sure. And this was for the challenge of fake dating. It's about this guy who is like known for being a playboy, and his dad is trying to do like this business deal with this guy who's like very family friendly. So he needs his son, the main character, to pretend to be family friendly while the deal goes down. So the guy asks his female best friend to pretend to be his fiance for like the week. And yeah, I surprisingly liked this. It takes place from the guy's point of view, which I don't think I've ever read a romance book that was 100% from the guy's point of view. I've only ever read them when it's like dual POV. And so I was kind of nervous if I would like this, but I ended up actually really liking it. And I also liked the male character because I thought he was gonna be like a total playboy douchebag, but he was actually like not that bad. And I liked his relationship with his best friend. I ended up giving it 3 stars just because I don't think it was super memorable and it was kind of just like a very typical romance, but it was still good. Now I'm out obviously running errands, and then tonight I think I'm gonna start A Nordic King by Karina Halley. Also, just cutting in here because I do want to mention again that I am hosting a fundraiser for Room to Read, which is a nonprofit organization that raises money to bring the best education to children in low-income countries. And I will have a link in the description where you can donate if you wanted to, but no pressure. So many people have already donated and it just warms my heart so much. So thank you if you are one of those people. I appreciate it a lot. And okay, back to your regular programming. So it is the last day of Smut-a-thon. I didn't vlog anything yesterday because I was really busy most of the day. I didn't read anything more today, so I figured I would just let you guys know what I read yesterday. So yesterday, I think the last clip was me in my car about to explain the book that I was reading, which was A Nordic King, and then I got a phone call, so my phone stopped recording and I forgot to finish. But basically, I started reading A Nordic King by Karina Halley, and this is a royalty romance about this girl who is a au pair or a nanny to really high-profile clients, and she gets hired to be the nanny for the King of Denmark, who is recently widowed and he has 2 young daughters. So she goes and becomes their nanny, and this book. This was definitely my favorite thing I read during Smut-a-thon. I gave it 4.5 stars. I loved it so much. I am a hoe for any type of like royalty romance. They're my favorite. I've never read a royalty romance that I didn't like, and this book really reminded me of one of my favorite movies when I was a little kid. It was called, I think it was just called Au Pair. and I think it was like on ABC Family, or I don't know, it was a TV movie, but it was really good and I watched it so many times when I was a kid, and it's basically that same premise where this girl becomes the au pair of this really wealthy man, and she takes care of his kids, and then they eventually fall in love. So I just immediately loved it because it reminded me of that. And then the king, I loved him so much. He is like 10 years older than the protagonist, so I think he was in his like 40s, and I immediately pictured him as Alexander Skarsgård. So I just really loved this. Basically, the king was like super apprehensive to hire, what was her name? Aurora? I think her name was Aurora. Yeah, no, it was Aurora because they called her Princess Aurora. He was very apprehensive to hire her because he was immediately attracted to her and he thought that would be a problem, but his two daughters just like fell in love with her, so he kind of got over it so that his daughters could be happy. And he hires her, and they kind of at the beginning have a very like they butted heads and they didn't like each other. She called him King Asshole. And this definitely could have fit. I put this for different worlds, but it definitely could have fit slow burn also because they had a very slow build up to their relationship, which I loved. Like I said, they started out butting heads and then slowly they started to bond and appreciate each other, and they really connected over their mutual love for the two little girls. And also, that's another thing, I don't normally like kids in books. I usually find them really annoying, but these two little girls were so adorable. I loved them, and I loved the relationship that Aurora had with them because they had lost their mother and they were both at young, kind of impressionable ages and really looking for like a female role model, and they just really bonded well. And the sex scenes were so good. Overall, I loved it, and I'm so excited to read more of Hallie Hale. I'm so excited to read more of her books. I know she has 2 more books, but they're companions kind of. She has 2 more other royal romance books, but I think one of them is like about the Prince of Sweden, and the other one is another prince, I'm not sure from where, maybe Norway. So I'm really excited to read those. I feel like she could become a new favorite romance writer because this book was just so good and so much fun. So I did want to shout out a couple people who have been participating in Smut-a-thon and whose tweets and updates and videos I've really been loving. So the first person is Ellie, and she has a booktube channel called The Ellie Effect, and I found her recently and I am obsessed with her videos. She reads a lot of smut, and she has a series on her channel called Smutty Saturday, where on Saturday she just reviews some smutty books that she's read. Before Smut-a-thon started, she posted a thread on Twitter of a ton of smutty romance book recommendations, and I pretty much went through and saved all of them to my TBR. Then there's Taryn, who has a book blog called Taryn and Her Books, and I've actually been following Taryn for a couple years now, but recently she kind of switched over to primarily focusing on romance books. She was actually the one who recommended My Lady's Lover, which I ended up loving. A lot of the romance books that I have read and found are because of her tweets, because she tweets about romance books a lot. Now I'm just gonna go quickly into my wrap up and let you guys know my final ratings for these books and what challenges I counted them for. So from Lukov with Love by Mariana Zapata, I gave this 4 stars, and this was for the challenge of slow burn. Then I read volumes 1 and 2 of Sunstone, and these were for the challenges of Friends with Benefits, I guess? Or what did I say these were for? Honestly, I don't know. Then I read My Lady's Lover by Nicola Davidson, and I gave this 4 stars, and this was for the challenge of Different Worlds. Then I read Survival of the Richest by Skye Warren, and I gave this 3.5 stars, 4 stars, and this is for the challenge of Forbidden. Then I read Born Darkly by Trisha Wolfe, and I gave this 4.5 stars, and this was for the challenge of Slow Burn? Enemies to Lovers? Could have been either. Then I read The Deal by Elle Kennedy, and I gave this 3.5 stars, and this was for the challenge of Friends with Benefits. Then I read Seven of Swords by J.J. Knight, and I gave this 1 star, and it was for the challenge of One Night Stand. Then I read Luffs by Shay Savage, and I gave this 4.5 stars, and this was for the challenge of Different Worlds. Then I read Big Rock by Lauren Blakely, and I gave this 3 stars, and this was for the challenge of Fake Dating. And then lastly, I read A Nordic King by Karina Hale, and this was for the challenge of Different Worlds. All in all, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 things, which is one more than I read last time, and I completed all the challenges. This was a pretty successful Smut-a-thon. I'm really happy with it. Thank you to everyone who participated. It's just amazing. I can't wait for the next round. It will probably be next year in the summertime. We're not sure yet, but we will definitely let you guys know. Thank you guys for watching. This is probably gonna end up being a really long video, so if you stuck around, well done. Congratulations. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!